Welcome to Chandwell. My name's Michael and I'm building a grimy 1960s shopping precinct for my layout set in 1993. Precincts like this were common in almost every town. Although fictional, when this scene is finished, I want people who see it to get a sense of familiarity. An emotional response based upon their own memories of this kind of faded modernism. Join me then for this look at some of the decisions I've made to try and bring a little atmosphere to this part of Chandwell in Building for Atmosphere. In the early 90s, job centres merged with the unemployment benefit offices, and it was common to see the pre-1994 orange branding on closed centres. A perfect opportunity for Chandwell in 1993. The makeup of this shopfront is very straightforward. It's just 3 wooden boards, some posters, a sliver of window, a base, the sign, and a couple of columns. I took the posters from the ones I used under the Bridge Lane Bridge just over 2 years ago. I added a layer to make them look more like pasted paper, but this didn't come out in the tiny prints. I made the frontage from acetate, using the sticky label method to open out the small panes of non-boarded up windows. Once cut out, you can see how it goes behind the frontage like this. The boards with posters are glued on top, and then the other components, stuck to 0.5mm card, arrange on top like this. The sign is simply printed onto photo paper and then stuck to another 2 layers of paper. The resulting sign is 3 layers of paper thick, and because it has a white border, it doesn't need its edges painting. It goes on like this. Because it doesn't fill the full width of the available space, I used watercolour paint to remove the white of the paper. Black tape goes behind the windows, as there will be no interior. A really important part of getting the feel of the place right is what to do with the paving. I downloaded some textures from architextures.org and tried out a few ideas in Inkscape. In every drawing, I took pains to arrange the paving so it was aligned with the market's main entrance and the tower in the wider part of the wedge. The plaza is small, but I'm keen to include modernist brick-built seating and planters, so the paving needs to take this into account. I was very taken by the hexagonal paving, but I eventually opted for a simple arrangement of squares. This one is based on the Mersey Centre in Stockport, and the Stockport Image Archive includes some gems that show just how awful this modern vision of the future became by the 1990s. This is the atmosphere I'm after. Having tested the arrangement, I printed it for real. I added rusty scale scenes manhole covers, some patches of tarmac where slabs have been removed and never replaced, a couple of patches of new slabs, some subtle water staining, and an overlay of a cracked effect. I did think I could add a bit of a better effect to the tarmac though, so I cut it out and printed a separate patch of tarmac, which will glue underneath like this. I used PVA glue to paste the plaza in place. I don't tend to like my buildings, so interior detail does not have to be very high fidelity. I printed out a picture of the interior of a newsagent's, curved it around my fingers, and dropped it behind the newsagent window. It's hardly visible, so I'm not really sure if this added much. I dropped some scale scenes blinds and curtains behind the windows of the upstairs rooms, and then I backed this with tape. Black tape is an effective way of making the interior of the room look dark. Because the back layer of card is recessed away from the window, there's a slight gap between the curtains and the window frames. That very subtle shadow makes a really big difference. We've all seen sad looking concrete art in places like this, and I wanted a bit in Chandwell. I used a crop of a photo from the internet and made it the right size. Stuck to 3 sheets of paper, it was easy to cut out. I coloured the edges with pencil and then dropped it into its alcove. I based the main entrance of the market on Wood Street Market in London. I had fun imagining the stalls that may be found in the depths of the market. I used a stack of card to fix the ground at the right level for the entrance. It's 3mm higher here than where the grocery shop is. I used the sticky label method for the doors. I realised that if you follow the technique as normal, but cut right the way through the acetate, you can get convincingly thin frames and separate doors. I used watercolour paint to colour the frames red. The wet paint soaks into the label and colours the whole thing. You aren't left with any white edges, and it's a really easy way to paint the frames. Any paint that you do get on the glazing can just be wet with water and then dabbed off with tissue. So with frames, doors, walls and signs, we could build the entrance. Signs onto walls, wall onto door frames, wall onto ceiling, side walls into place. Something like that. I don't think the welcome will ever be seen. I use Uhu glue instead of PVA to place the market front onto the baseboard. It gives a much quicker grip and allows me to position the card into place without the need for supports or weights. I can then drop the main entrance behind the opening, and then position the tiny little doors with my tweezers. To finish off the entrance, I bend a picture of a real market into a curve and then use PVA to slot it onto the baseboard. By curving it round like this, you can see it from any angle, but you don't see any strong edges or weird perspective. It's difficult to get my camera in, but that is working nicely. You can almost smell those flowers. And the pet shop. I added the side of the building and a simple flat roof, held it down with stuff. I realised that the extra 2 stories at the back, which I put on to hide the back scene transition, aren't actually needed, so I chopped them off. And I painted the scar, ready to be covered with edging later on. I think the precinct really is starting to feel interesting now, with its paving in bad repair, boarded up job centre, no frills supermarket, and tired but characterful entrance. The square certainly has atmosphere. But what next? Is it time for the tower? Not quite, there's still the main facade to put on. Join me next week, where I will show how I made this dirty 1960s facade, and we can find out together whether it will finally make or break the market frontage. Please give this video a thumbs up if you can spare a couple of seconds, it does mean a lot to me if you can. And drop me a comment too, and let me know what you think of the way the precinct is shaping up. Until next time then, thank you for watching, take care, and I'll see you next time.